Every single year, I see a lot of applications just get thrown away with literally no reason other than you did not pass that filter. You might be a Nobel Prize laureate and you scored 247, but the cutoff for the exam was 248 and your application won't be even seen to the program. Some programs, they just make it by feel, what the person evaluating an applicant feels that this is a good applicant or not. While other programs have more robust criteria. They would give you certain bonus points for certain scores. So it's very objective process. Start believing that your solutions can actually become a company. The biggest barrier to you succeeding is you believing what you're about to do can actually turn up into a company, can turn up into a startup.
Hello everyone and welcome to a new episode. Today I have a very special guest, someone I knew for years, but we are going to talk about something very new, brand new. It's a new way of approaching how we hire future physicians. Malke, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to be here.
Can you give the listeners like a quick summary who you are, what you are doing, and what you are trying to build, or what you have built so far?
Of course, yeah. So my name is Malke Assad. I'm originally from Syria. Me and Rupen, as a fun fact, went to the same med school in Aleppo. Under the bombs, we made it. We made it through the whole
6 years,
medical
right?
school, to the full like medical school experience. I remember multiple times we had exams that we bombs were falling around and we just kept going. I feel like that kind of experience built the resilience in us to just keep fighting and keep going. After med school, our routes diverged. I went to started my research journey actually at the Mayo Clinic in Rochester, Minnesota, in the US. Did plastic surgery research for 1 year, then moved to Houston to do research at MD Anderson Cancer Center for 2 years, and then I matched to plastic surgery residency at the University of Pittsburgh. I started a company that is not related to our talk, but I'm gonna mention it because it kind of gave me the inspiration to do RankRX, which is the company we're talking about here. So the last year of my research, I started a company called the Match Guy, which is a company to help people who are applying from medical school to residency. So for those who are not very familiar with this process, once you finish med school, you need to do some kind of specialization so you can become a surgeon or a cardiologist or a GI physician. And this process is called residency. And our company helps applicants, especially international graduates, with their exams, personal statements, ERAS application, letters of recommendation, all this kind of stuff. We help them so they can hopefully match into residency in the US. And I've been doing this for the last 4 years. But what prompted me to start RankRX, which is the company we'll talk about today, is I saw the pain associated with reviewing these applications. I saw the unfair system. Rupen, every single year, I see a lot of applications just get thrown away with literally no reason other than you did not pass that filter. You might be a Nobel Prize laureate. I'm serious about that. You might be a Nobel Prize laureate and you scored 247, but the cutoff for the exam was 248 and your application won't be even seen to the program. So I was like, this is not fair. Now there is a better way of doing this. So why not create RankRX? And we can talk more about the reasons and the economy of reviewing applications, but that is the main reason that made me start RankRX, which is simply a platform that uses AI and large language models to screen the applications for different residency programs so they don't have to go through it manually. With a few clicks, they can put the applications and get screening of all these applications based on their criteria.
I love it. How does RankRX like actually filter or like, let's say, how does the process really work? Talk to me step by step. Let's say I'm a program director. I'm listening to this. Talk to me. How does this tool help me find that smart person who fits my program criteria?
Exactly. That's a very, very good question because that goes back to how are we assessing applicants? What are these criteria that we're using? Some programs, Rupen, they just make it by feel, what the person evaluating an applicant feels that this is a good applicant or not. While other programs have more robust criteria. They would give you certain bonus points for certain scores. They would give you, if you did US clinical experience, they would give you certain points. So it's very objective process. So
Hmm.
what we did for our platform is we made it very objective. The way that we do that is we ask the program director or whoever is signing up for this platform to fill exact information of how they want these applications to be scored. So instead of us giving you excellent and poor and good and bad, you decide what is excellent for you, what is bad for you, what is great for you. And we start from every single piece of the application going through the scores. We give you different ranges and you decide how much bonus points you want to give for that. We give you different research models to assess the research output and you decide which one you want to pick. We have bonus points for if you're a green card holder, citizen, if you did school in the US, outside the US. So, in summary, it tries to ask about every single detail on the application, and you get to choose how many points you want to associate with that.
And how about like the business model? Is this like a one-time subscription? Is it like monthly subscription during the season of the interviews? How does the business model work?
So the way this works, it's a subscription. And since the match process runs from September until March, we do it once a year. So you get kind of a yearly subscription for this. For this cycle, for March 2026 cycle, we're offering it for free for programs because we want people to try it, see, if they like it, if they have any feedback for us. And next year we might change that. But for now, it's a free subscription, only applies for residency programs. So we talk to the people before we give them access to the platform because for now it's not built for students, it's mainly built for programs.
And how is I don't know if you had a chance to receive any feedback. Have you received any feedback? And how is this feedback? And are you planning eventually to like expand to include like also like medical school beyond residency program fellowships, or even maybe like other markets beyond medicine?
These are really great questions. And the one of the reasons we call it rank RX is to keep it undifferentiated, not necessarily focused on medical school, focused on the residency process. Because as you said, this could be applied to fellowship, could be applied to medical school, could be applied to nursing school, law school, college. The reason why we wanted to start with the residency because it's very complicated, and we thought if we can harness that very complicated application, we can handle medical school and the different type of applications. We also wanted to show some success before we reach out to medical schools, colleges, because for these, one advantage I can tell you, one advantage of the residency application process, which actually could be shocking to people, is the fact that all these applications feed through what we call ERAS, and this is a platform of the AAMC. And in that case, you get to all programs the same exact structure of this PDF, of this application. So that is not the case for medical schools and colleges. So for those, we probably have to build a platform specific to that college, specific to the way they collect the application. Imagine, let's say you have a Google Forms, and the certain questions on the Google Forms might be different between college A, college B. On the other hand, for residency, because all the residency programs use ERAS, or most of them use ERAS, you have the bulk of the applications have the exact same structure. So that's why I want to start with one platform that processes all these applications before we go to the colleges where we probably need to customize these applications per college and per medical school. And regarding your question about whether we received feedback, yes, we actually programs are actively using it right now. So some of them have already finished processing the applications. They love the platform. They think it's really helpful. It's giving them information that they would not have ever that they would not have seen otherwise. Because for people who are listening to this or are not very familiar with this, the applications are like 30 to 50 pages, sometimes like 70 and 80 pages, and you get like 1,000 to 2,000 applications. And you can imagine the amount of time it would take to go through each of these applications. So the feedback we got is that sometimes the platform does not recognize certain sections. And that's something we worked on and we improved actually now, especially for letters of recommendation. This is very funny, but like we saw that the platform is skipping some letters of recommendation, and we were like, can you show us, this application? Because it's very weird. It's not recognizing the LOR at all. And the reason is, Rupen, that sometimes the letter authors actually print the LOR and they sign it and scan it. So now this LOR
Yeah, you
is a
don't
picture.
have the OCR to identify the letters.
Exactly. So the LOR is a picture. It's not text. and we added the OCR to recognize these pictures, and now it's processing that. So that's sometimes kind of feedback we're getting. Sometimes people print that PDF in a different format than the one we built it, so we asked them to do it in the same way. So that's mainly the feedback we got. One program actually asked us to add a feature, and that's something also that we take pride in, that we can add features easily. We added to him, we added for him in a week approximately. He wanted to add in-state experiences because he's in a part of a country that is not very popular like New York and San Francisco. So they have affinity to people who have done rotations or some experiences or were born in these areas. So they usually take applicants who have these in-state experiences. So we added that for them, and now they're using it based on that.
Tell me a bit about your experience in building this as a like a healthcare entrepreneur. You came with this idea. You're a physician. You don't have the programming and the coding background. How did you build a team? How did you put a team together to build this?
That's actually the most challenging thing I faced, especially as a surgical resident. Especially, I have another company I need to run. So finding the tech team, especially that also I'm not in that space. I'm not someone who, for example, as a physician and as a resident, I know 200 people who are also residents and physicians, and to get them as advisors for the match guy takes a phone call. On the other hand, I don't have these connections in the tech space. So I had to reach out to friends of friends who are familiar with people who work in that domain. And it takes a lot of screening. It takes a lot of work because some people tell you, oh, I can do this. And then you start working with them and it just keeps going and going. Nothing is getting accomplished. So you need to screen probably like say 10 to get maybe two really interested people who are experienced and end up, one working out. So building the tech team and making sure their output, their result is what I'm looking for was probably the most challenging thing I faced when building RankRX.
So this is challenging, but like, what are the key lessons when you are looking to hire people so as a physician to build like a tech team? How do you vet those people? How do you know who will do the work? How you know who will not do the work? How do you know who is the person with the good technical expertise that match your needs?
That's the key. That's the key, Rupen, and that's what now I'm trying to identify what kind of tests can we do at the Magi and RankRX to screen these people. Because you can imagine your time, you're very busy. I'm very busy. I'm sure each entrepreneur, CEO trying to build a startup is very busy, and you don't have time to like go and sit with people and talk to them for hours, and then they tell you, oh, well, you know what? I found a job somewhere else. So you need to find that efficient way of screening people that test their skills, doesn't waste so much of their time because don't want to waste so much of their time and then not consider them, but also find that skill and talent for you. So it took some time for us to identify that person or that test uh, to screen people because the first thing that we would ask is, well, how much money are you expecting? Because we're a new startup, we don't have hundreds of thousands of dollars to spend on developers, and I understand that these people also want money. So the financial thing has to be very very clear from the first email we send emails to these people. Financial aspect has to be very clear of to make sure that you're both on the same page. Visa authorization, that's also something I was not aware of, but many people who applied have EAD from their F1 visa, but others did not. And we don't
Yeah,
have the capacity.
you can't hire them.
Exactly, we don't have the capacity to sponsor visas and stuff like that. The part-time versus full-time. At this time, I cannot afford a full-time person. So we want part-time people, and a lot of people were like, "Oh, I'm only looking for full-time." Or they would work for you for like a week or two. Once they get that full-time, they're out of the door. And no matter what they sign, even if they sign a contract, you're not gonna sue them for like leaving. So that I would say like making sure you're on the same page by very clear instructions early on, it would help. But still, people might still tell you something, but it's something else. Then I used to talk to each single person, but then I'm like, you know what, this is just taking so much time. So I started recording tutorials to explain the platform. So instead of me explaining to them the platform each single time, I give them exact tutorial. I'm like, do you have experience doing one, two, three? And if they tell me yes,
Then we can
I
take
used
your
to talk
call.
to them. So every time like I push me talking to them, And then I was like, even this me talking to them, I'm really not able to identify because they tell you I did this and I did that, but when it comes to work ethic, accuracy, things are different. So we started actually giving them a test very similar of a simple task of what they will be doing. So, there is multiple aspects that you need to fix on our platform and like things to work on. So we found the simplest one. We replicated it on one of the branches and we give them access to that branch. I'm like, show us what you can do. Something you probably take like 5, 6 hours. So not again very time consuming, but can show us how accurate that person is. And I had my main person evaluate these people, and we found a good team from this task actually.
One thing I would argue is, so from my experience also, I found that talking to people, explaining the things again and again and again will give you at least, I think someone should do it at the beginning. I've gone through this experience. And so when you talk to the first developer and he started asking you questions, I was like, oh, I didn't think about this. I didn't think about this. And then you ask the developer, like, how would you solve this? And then they will give you an answer. And you can always go back to like AI to be like your CTO. And then you talk to the second developer, and then like he will give you another solution. And then you go back to the AI, and then like you talk to the third developer, he will ask you a third question that you didn't. So I think also like at the beginning, maybe you are able to like, I agree, it's more efficient to record, but sometimes, especially at the beginning, if you do like 4 or 5 times talking to developers, and every one of them asks you a different question, it's going to make you think about different way of people um, thinking about the, especially from the developer side of the view. And I work with developers every day through the companies that I like advise or I'm building. And one of the things is like every day they ask me a question like, damn, their question makes sense. I didn't think about it. So I have to come up with a logic or something in the background. But it really depends. There is no right or wrong way.
No, no,
You
I
can,
totally agree with you, and I think that
yeah,
was very helpful to me at the beginning stage of the company.
yeah.
The very first early stages, having like let me talk to these people and get an idea of how they solve this issue. But once things got complicated, and now we have a platform that we're trying to make it perfect. So we have like a functioning MVP, make it perfect. At that point, it became, they need to see what we've done, like really look
Mhm.
into the code, which takes days, and I don't want to give access to every single person. So we created that testing. But in the beginning, as like, if there is a problem, a big, broad problem, getting ideas, you can tell, even if you're not, a tech savvy person, you can tell who knows what they're talking about and who did not.
Gotcha. What advice would you give someone who is in residency or medical school? They find a problem and they think they have a solution for it. What advice would you give for those people who are in similar shoes where we are right now?
Exactly. That's a great question. And I wish, I was listening to this maybe like 10 years ago when I was in Syria, because that would help me start believing that your solutions can actually become a company. I think the biggest barrier to you succeeding is you believing what you're, about to do can actually turn up into a company, can
Mhm.
turn up into a startup. Because a lot of us are like, oh, these people are different. Mark Zuckerberg and Elon Musk are different. They're actual people who went to college, had a great idea, and they believe in the idea so much that Mark Zuckerberg had to quit college, to pursue this. So you have to first believe in your ability in general. In general, I'm not asking you to quit. I'm just asking you to believe that your ideas and your solutions can actually turn into a startup. That's the first advice I have for you. Second advice is you have to assess the market, because a lot of us have great ideas, and great solutions, but is that something that people really need? Is that something that people will spend money on? That is the main question. In the case of RankRX, you can imagine, these physicians are very busy. Their time is very expensive. So if you can save them time, even just from a hypothetical standpoint, if you can save them time to spend instead of reviewing these applications on clinical work or their family, they would love that. Just from that aspect. Also from analysis of the market, there are thousands and thousands of programs. I'm not solving a problem for a few hundred people. I'm talking about thousands and thousands of programs in a structure that they actually have money. There is this funny example of like this guy who wanted to build CVs or like edit CVs for homeless people. But the reality is that homeless people don't have money to pay you. So
Yeah,
this you have to think about your
customer.
target audience or your customers. do they actually have the money? Is there enough of them? And are they interested slash willing to pay you money, take that credit card out of their pocket and pay you the money? So you need to analyze that before you go all in. And you can start with a simple test, reach out to, your audience, reach out to your customers and see if there is interest. In the beginning, you're probably not going to have the perfect product, the perfect solution, but see if there is interest in that to start with. And then you can build on that and start spending money, getting funding, ask your parents to give you some money. But you need to kind of test things first before you go all in.
Okay, so one more question. Can you tell me a bit, how did you reach out to your customers? What was your way of finding the person to use your product?
That's actually a great question. And for people who are not very familiar with the healthcare space, it's very, very challenging to penetrate. It's very challenging to convince people of a change because, as you know, we're doctors, we're very risk averse when it comes to patient care. And I feel that ends up transferring to other aspects, even if it's like, applications has nothing to do with patient care, but we still have that mentality of like HIPAA, security, confidentiality of information. And these are things that we took, number one and two and three and like all the way down to 10 when building RankRX because I'm a physician myself, I understand that. But I want to make sure that people understand that we already appreciate these concerns, we address these concerns, and we put that, firsthand on our website every time we talk to programs. But how did we reach out to them is multiple folds. We had people who I knew from my network, my program, other programs that I had connections with, I reached out to them. Friends, at the Match Guy, we have multiple advisors in the healthcare space, and these come from different programs. So I would reach out to them and ask, if their programs are interested. And I got multiple people through that route. Emails of programs, programs have public websites. The program directors or coordinators have public emails, so reach out to them by emails. We ran some ads as well on Google, on LinkedIn, on Twitter, and we got a few people from there as well on my on my social media platforms, on my YouTube, on my Instagram, and LinkedIn and Facebook through like just regular posting and blogs. So we have hundreds of visits now to the website through these different channels that we created. But I can tell you that's probably the most challenging part is convincing people that we have the what it takes to process these applications. And I'm not going to mention the name of the institution, but one of the institutions that we had to go through their screening process as a tech vendor, I literally spent over 3 to 5 hours going through the list of questions they had. They sent me 63 questions. 63 questions.
Welcome
Each
to
question was a
healthcare.
paragraph, to go through each. But this is what it takes because if you take the approval of one institution, you have like all these programs under that umbrella, agree to work with you.
Awesome, great. Malke, thank you so much for being here today. It was a really pleasure having you. And I think every program director, everyone who is actually in a hiring position in medicine should check RankRX.
The pleasure is mine. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me, and I wish you best of luck on this podcast.